Hello students, today in a paper labor laws with paper code BBA07 we are going to cover the topic of 4th unit, that is the collective bargaining. I am Ragini Dikshit, working as assistant professor, School of Management, BBD University. Now the contents of this presentation are: first we will introduce ourselves about the collective bargaining. Then what are the various objectives and characteristics of collective bargaining? Levels of collective bargaining, at what levels it is done. Then importance of collective bargaining, types, process and problems of collective bargaining. Now, introduction of collective bargaining. The concept of collective bargaining was introduced very late in India, and as trade union were found only in 20th century. The concept of collective bargaining attained significance only after 1962. The phrase, this collective bargaining, is said to be coined by Sidney and Beatrice Webb and with Great Britain. In India, collective bargaining got impetus from various statutory provisions like Trade Dispute Act 1929, Industrial Dispute Act 1947 and various voluntary provisions like tripartite conferences, joint consultative machineries, etc. A collective bargaining was not very popular till the end of the Second World War. Collective bargaining are conducted at plant, industry and national level. Collective bargaining is made up from two words, that is collective, which means group, and bargaining, which means proposals and counter proposals. So it means groups which offer proposal and counter proposals. So it is a process in which the representatives of a labor organization and the representatives of business organization meet and attempt to negotiate a contract or agreement which specifies the nature of employee-employer union relationship. So it is a process in which the representative of a labor organization and the representative of business organization meet and attend and they try to negotiate on a contract or agreement, and this negotiation process specifies the nature of employee-employer union relationship. Now coming to the exact definition of collective bargaining, it is an agreement between a single employer, or it can be an agreement between an association of employers on the one hand and a labor union on the other, which regulates the terms and conditions of employment. Another definition of collective bargaining can be: collective bargaining is a process of discussion and negotiation between two parties, one or both of them, whom is a group of persons acting in contest. More specifically, it is the procedure by which an employer or employers and a group of employees agree upon the conditions of work. So it is a procedure by which an employer or group of employers and a group of employees agree upon the conditions of work. It has some major objectives. These 7 major objectives of collective bargaining can be, that is, collective bargaining helps to promote cordial and harmonious relationship between the employer and the employees, and it helps to protect the interest of both employer and employee, to foster industrial democracy, everybody has the right to take decisions, then to keep the third party at bay, to ensure that trade union is given due recognition, to prevent unilateral action of management, and to arrive at mutually beneficial settlement. What are the various characteristics of collective bargaining? First, it is a collective process. Two parties are involved generally in collective bargaining. That is, collective bargaining is a group and collective process wherein the workers or employees bargain for their common interest and benefits so that they and the management jointly can arrive at an amicable solution through negotiation. Second, it is a continuous process. That means it establishes regular and stable relationship between the parties involved. It is a day-to-day process of bargaining between the two parties. Then third is equal strength. That is, the bargaining strength of both the parties across the table is the same. Both the workers and the management bargain from a position of equal strength. Then it is flexible and not rigid. Both the parties have to adopt a flexible approach. They can't be rigid on their demands throughout the process of bargaining. They can't be rigid while negotiating, otherwise results will not be achieved. Common point, a special feature of this process is that both the parties start negotiating from completely divergent views but eventually reach a middle point which is acceptable to both the parties. It is a dynamic process, that is a relatively new concept and is still expanding. The way both the parties discuss, argue and arrive at a common point keeps on changing. Power relationship, in order to arrive at a common point of agreement, both the parties, management and workers have to dilute some of their powers. Workers want to gain maximum from the management and management wants to extract the maximum from workers by paying as little as possible. So, to reach a solution, both have to retreat from their positions and to accept less than what is asked for and give more than what is offered. Bipartite process, this means that both the management and the workers negotiate over the issues directly, face to face across the table without any third party intervention. Voluntarily, that is, collective bargaining is a voluntary process on the part of both the management and the workers. Both of them come to the bargaining table out of their own wish to have a meaningful discussion on their issues. Then complementary process, it is a complementary process in the sense that each party needs something that the other party has. Labor can increase productivity and management can pay better for their efforts. So the management and labor can complement each other. Then there are various levels of collective bargaining which is seen, that is national level collective bargaining, industry level collective bargaining and company level collective bargaining. Coming to the national level collective bargaining, it is a bipartite or tripartite form of negotiation between Union Confederation, Central Employer Association and government agencies. It aims at providing a floor for lower level bargaining on the terms of employment, often taking into account macroeconomic goal. Then second type of bargaining or second level of collective bargaining is your sectoral bargaining. This type of bargaining aims at the standardization of the terms of employment in one industry, includes a range of bargaining patterns. Company level bargaining. Here bargaining level involves the company or establishment. These are the various level of bargaining, that is economy level bargaining, industry level bargaining and the company level bargaining. Now, collective bargaining, that is importance of collective bargaining from workers and trade union point of view, from management point of view and from government point of view. Coming to the first point, that is importance of collective bargaining from workers and trade union point of view. Trade unions are the bargaining agents for the workers. Their main function is to protect the economic and non-economic interest of the workers through constructive programs. Trade union may negotiate with the employer for better employment opportunities. Then it may provide a feeling of job security to the workers through collective bargaining. It may compel the management not to indulge in the practices of victimization and exploitation. It may also satisfy the ego of the workers by introducing schemes of workers' participation in management. Due to presence of collective bargaining system, employer is not free to make and enforce all decisions as per his own will. Employer cannot take any unilateral decision. All conditions of employment and rates of wages can be decided and fixed only through collective bargaining system. The collective bargaining may impose certain restriction upon the employer to provide all those facilities to the workers for which they are legally entitled for. As individually worker has no existence because labor is perishable, so their existence, position and importance is possible only if there is a strong collective bargaining. Now, from management point of view, why collective bargaining is important? Through collective bargaining, the management has to ensure that there is a maximum utilization of worker for an efficient management, growth and prosperity. Collective bargaining is the only way to improve industrial relations and to have cordial atmosphere. It may reduce the presence of strikes and go slow tactics, which is going to adversely affect the productivity and profitability of the enterprise. Collective bargaining opens up the channels of communication between the top, middle and operative level of the organization, which may be difficult otherwise. So, collective bargaining helps to maximize the utilization of worker in an efficient manner. Then collective bargaining helps us to improve industrial relations and cordial atmosphere. It may reduce the presence of strike and go slow tactics, and it opens up the channels of communication between the top, middle and the operational level of the organization. It may promote a sense of job security among the employees and thereby tend to reduce the cost of labor turnover. Collective bargaining enhances the goodwill of the organization due to the presence of industrial democracy. It may develop a feeling of cooperation and coordination among the workers and between employer and employees. It may also induce the workers to work at the minimum cost with maximum efficiency and high motivation, and this all will help the management. Now, from government point of view, why this collective bargaining is important? That is, collective bargaining prevents the government from using the force because an amicable agreement can be reached between employers and employees for implementing the legislative provisions. In fact, collective bargaining is a peaceful settlement of any dispute between workers and employers, and therefore it promotes industrial peace and higher productivity. If there is a strong system of collective bargaining, government can easily implement different labor laws and employer will have to give all those facilities to the employee for which he is entitled for. Labor problems shall be minimized through collective bargaining and industrial peace shall be promoted in the country without any force. Now, generally there are four types of collective bargaining. These are distributive bargaining, integrative bargaining, composite bargaining and your concessionary bargaining. Now, coming to the distributive bargaining, or it is also known as conjunctive bargaining. It is the most common type of bargaining and involves zero-sum negotiation in which one side wins and the other loses. Both the parties try to maximize their respective gains. Unions negotiate for maximum wages and the management wants to yield as little as possible while getting things done through workers. The workers of the union try to convince the management and threatens them that they will go on the strike if they don't get what they want. In turn, management is willing to ride the strike out if they have replacement to fill in for those on strike. So it is the type of bargaining in which one side will win and the other side will lose. Now, coming to the integrative bargaining, it is also known as cooperative bargaining. In this type of bargaining, both the parties try to cooperate with each other, solving problems beneficial to each other. It is a kind of win-win situation. Both of the parties try to win the situation. Both the employer and the union resolve the conflict by reaching a mutually beneficial outcome. They share information about their interests and concerns and create a list of possible solutions to best meet everyone's needs. This may happen when there is a recession in the country. The employers cannot offer higher wages demanded, but they cannot also survive without the workers. Labor has no option but to accept a cut in wages in return for a job security and better wages when things will improve. Both the parties try to negotiate the terms of employment in a flexible way that it becomes the win-win situation for both the parties. For example, in India, Telco resorted to integrative bargaining during the recession in the automobile sector. Now, coming to the third type of bargaining, it is known as composite bargaining. Now, in composite bargaining, labor bargains for matter demanding equity in work norms, employment levels, standards, environmental hazards, subcontracting, etc. That is, labor bargains for wages as usual but goes a step further. That is for work norms, employment levels, standards, environmental hazards and subcontracting. These issues are also included in the bargaining issue. Then workers believe that the productivity bargaining agreements increase their workload, which adds burden and makes their life uneasy. According to workers, wages, bonus and other monetary benefits continue to occupy the center stage in the bargaining sessions. But there is a definite shift towards composite bargaining. Unions are happy as their power is not diluted and employers too think that this is lesser evil than strikes and lockouts. Thus, this situation may not continue for a longer time. Now, coming to concessionary bargaining. This type of bargaining is quite opposite to other forms of bargaining where the union demand from the employers. The objective of this type of bargaining is to give back to management some part of what it has gained in the previous bargaining. Such a move is made by the labor leaders who recognize that workers must assist employers to reduce operating costs. This will prevent layoff and closing down of plants. Thus, it is often economic adversity that motivates concessionary bargaining. However, in some cases, the union may not view management argument as credible. Thus, the degree of trust and credibility between the management and the union influences the extent to which concessionary bargaining occurs. So, in this type of bargaining, the management seeks some of the gains from the employees. That is, the objective of this type of bargaining is to give back to management some part of it of what it has gained in the previous bargaining. And why such move is considered necessary by some labor leaders, that is, it helps the labor leaders to recognize that workers must assist employers to reduce operating costs because this will prevent layoff and closing down of plants from the employer side. Now, coming to the process of collective bargaining, there are various stages involved in the process, and these stages can be your pre-negotiation stage, negotiator stage, negotiations, agreement or contract, and implementation of agreement. Now, we can conclude from this diagram, that is preparation for negotiation, to decide the source for collecting information, from where each party will get the information, identification of issues to be discussed, identification of negotiation team, who will be the representative, who will be comprise the entire team, who all will be included in that team, who is going to negotiate with the employer. Then deciding the negotiation technique, what techniques we are going to employ. Then entering into labor management agreement. Finally, entering into an agreement, that is negotiation. Now coming to stage 1, pre-negotiation stage. This is the first stage involved in the bargaining process, and it is also known as preparation for negotiation. In other words, it refers to homework for negotiation. It is preparation for negotiation, that is homework, what homework has to be done for before starting the negotiation process. The pre-negotiation stage of the bargaining process is vital. Both parties, the management and the workers, need to make preparation for bargaining. Now, preparation by management. It is very important for the management to study very carefully the labor organization, or say labor union, with which they are to negotiate or bargain. This may include studying the strength of the union, their contracts with other industries, their background, personality characteristics of the union negotiators, etc. The management should also know what similar organizations are doing in the particular matter and what is expected from the economy in the near future. The management should understand the bargaining power of the union and should devise its bargaining strategy accordingly. For example, if the demand for the company's product or service has been high, management will be reluctant to observe a strike, even one of short duration. Now, on the other hand, if the business is passing through slackness, management will be least willing to concede to union demands and may be prepared to accept a lengthy strike. Finally, the likely decisions should be chalked out, their impact be analyzed, and the drafts for the likely decisions be prepared in advance to facilitate the immediate preparation of final agreement draft as soon as the negotiation comes to an end. Now, preparation by the labor union. The labor union also needs to collect data on relevant aspects of organization to facilitate its negotiation power and tactics. It should be aware of its contract with other companies, the practices followed by other companies in the same region, and so on. Employees' expectation over various issues should also be assessed in order to avoid their resistance to the agreement arrived at with the management. Due care should also be taken in selecting negotiator representative of the union. So, the labor union also decides or collects data on relevant aspects of organization to facilitate its negotiation power and tactic. It should be aware of its contact with other companies. Then employee expectation over various issues should also be assessed to avoid resistance, and due care should also be taken in selecting negotiator representative of the union, because it will only decide how that negotiator is going to communicate with the union. Now, negotiators. On the company side, the particular negotiator may be any one of a number of persons. It may be the industrial relations officer, the head of the particular area, such as production area, and office bearer like executive, vice president, or even the company lawyer. In order to broaden the base of participation, the practice of allowing all major divisional heads to participate and a few supervisors to observe on a rotating basis has great advantage in bargaining process. So, from the company side, office bearers, executives, industrial relation officer, then the head of the particular area or production areas, or even the company lawyer can come forward as the management representative. And the practice of allowing all major divisional heads to participate and supervise, to observe on a rotating basis, has a great advantage in the bargaining process. Now, on the union side, the team approach is customarily used. The team may consist of business agents, some shop stewards, the president of the local union, and when the negotiation is vital, the president of the national union. Now, negotiation. Once the first two stages are completed, both the parties come to the negotiation table at a time and place for this purpose. Customarily, negotiation process starts by the union representatives delivering an extravagant and long list of demands. Expectedly, the initial response from the management is usually as extreme as that of the union. The management counters the union demands by offering little more than what was agreed in the previous contract. This tug of war goes on from both the sides. In this process, each party assesses the relative priorities of the other's demands. This takes them in a situation when attempt is made to get management's highest offer to approximate the lowest demands that the union is willing to accept. Thus, each group compromises by giving some of its demands so that an agreement can be arrived at what they actually arrive at an agreement. This is converted into a written contract. So, when an agreement is arrived, that agreement is converted into a written contract. In case both parties do not reach to any agreement, then it is called deadlock or breakdown of bargaining impasse or the bargaining process. Now, agreement or contract. After both parties had arrived at an informal agreement, either in normal initial process or through overcoming bargaining impasse, it is written. The written form of the agreement usually consists of the terms and conditions of the agreement, the date from which that agreement is going to come into effect, the duration for which it will remain in operation, and the names of the signatories of the agreement. The agreement so prepared is then sent to the laborers and management for its ratification and approval. The representative of both the parties may not have ultimate authority to decide some issues referred to collective bargaining and included in the agreement. These need to be ratified by both the parties. The agreement needs to be duly ratified because of legal provisions according to section 18 of the Industrial Dispute Act 1947. An agreement shall be binding only on the parties to the agreement. This implies that any collective bargaining agreement does not apply automatically to all workers of an organization. The agreement becomes official once approved, ratified and signed by a labor and management representative. The collective agreement is variously known as labor contract, union contract or labor management agreement. Union members and members of management all receive copies of the agreement or contract. The agreement stipulates informal terms, the nature of the relationship between labor and management for the ensuing period of time as agreed in negotiation. Now, implementation of agreement. Once an agreement is ratified and approved, what next remains left is its implementation. The way it will be implemented is indicated in the agreement itself. The agreement must be implemented with full magnanimity in terms of its letter and spirit by both the parties from the date of its operation, as mentioned in the agreement. One of the most important elements involved in agreement implementation is spelling out of a procedure for handling grievances arising out of collective bargaining. In practice, almost all collective bargaining agreements contain formal procedures to be used in resolving grievances over the interpretation and application of the agreement. Hence, the grievances, if any, need to be resolved accordingly. Now, coming to the problems of collective bargaining, various problems are encountered in bargaining process. First, due to the dominance of outsiders and trade unions in the country, there is multiplicity of unions which are weak and unstable and do not represent majority of the employees. Moreover, there are inter-union rivalries which further hinder the process of collective bargaining between the labor and the management. So these inter-union, that is existence of different unions, multiple unions, they can hinder the process of collective bargaining between the labor and the management. Now, since most of the trade unions are having political affiliations, they continue to be dominated by politicians who use the unions and their members to meet their political ends. Third, there is a lack of definite procedure to determine which union is to be recognized to serve as a bargaining agent on behalf of the worker. So there is no such definite procedure which is going to determine that which union is going to do the collective bargaining or process of collective bargaining on the behalf of the workers. Now, in India, the law provides an easy access to adjudication under the Industrial Dispute Act. The parties to the dispute may request the government to refer the matter to the adjudication, and the government will constitute the adjudication machinery, that is labor court or industrial tribunal. Thus, the faith in the collective bargaining process is discouraged. Parties generally adopt to the method of adjudication, that is interference of the government. Then there has been very close association between the trade unions and political parties. As a result, trade union movement has leaned towards political orientation rather than collective bargaining. Now, for collective bargaining to become successful, certain conditions are required, and these essential conditions for success of collective bargaining can be: there must be a change in the attitude of employers and employees. Then it is an approach which indicates that two parties are determined to resolve their differences in their respective claims in a peaceful manner. The employers and employees should enter upon negotiations on points of difference or on demands with a view to reaching an agreement. To ensure that collective bargaining functions properly, unfair labor practices should be avoided and abandoned by both sides. When negotiation results in an agreement, the terms of the contract should be put down in writing and embodied in a document. Now, collective bargaining should be based on facts and figures. If somebody is putting any demand, then it should be based on some facts and figures. Once an agreement is reached, it must be honored and fairly implemented. Both parties need to have an open mind and a positive attitude for the process of collective bargaining. They should listen to and try to understand the other person's viewpoint and limitations. A provision for arbitration should be incorporated in the agreement, which should become operative when there is any disagreement on the interpretation of its terms and conditions. So class, this was all about the process of collective bargaining. I hope this was clear to all of you. Thank you class.